TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations. Shalom and good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcasting to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, Syria's T4 Air Force Base has yet again been subject to an aerial bombardment in an attack attributed to the Israeli Air Force. The E3, which consists of France, Britain, and Germany, announced their collective decision to trigger the dispute mechanism under the 2015 nuclear agreement, which could lead eventually to the re-imposition of UN sanctions that were lifted under the deal. Iranian President Hassan Rouhani has threatened both Europe and the United States that unless their forces leave the region, none will be safe. Israel allegedly conducted a deadly aerial bombardment of Syria's T4 Air Force Base, which is located in the Homs Governorate, reportedly wreaking havoc on warehouses that belong to Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard's elite Quds Force. A Syrian military source confirmed the strike to TV7, which claimed the lives of at least 6 people, including 1 Syrian officer and 5 foreign nationals. The source further noted that incoming projectiles, some of which were successfully intercepted by Syrian surface-to-air batteries, were fired from the Tanif region, which is located on Syria's southern border with Iraq. According to verified reports, 4 missiles managed to penetrate Syria's Russian-made defense system, directly hitting their intended targets. It is important to know that 12 Syrian military officials blamed Israel for the attack. The IDF spokesperson's unit refused to confirm nor deny its responsibility and reiterated that it does not comment on foreign reports with regard to its operational activities. In related news, the intelligence branch of the Israeli military, commonly known by its Hebrew acronym Aman, has recommended stepping up operational activities against the entrenchment of Iranian forces in Israel's northern neighbor Syria. Amman submitted its annual intelligence assessment to Jerusalem's Security Cabinet, in which it promoted an increase of covert aerial strikes against Iranian-backed militias in order to capitalize on the vacuum that emerged in the leadership of the IRGC's Quds Force in wake of the successful assassination of its commander, Major General Qasem Soleimani. Amman's annual intelligence assessment stated further that the Islamic Republic could accumulate enough enriched uranium for the purpose of producing a nuclear bomb within approximately 1 year. The assessment underscored, however, that it would take another year to develop its first bomb. An intelligence official explained to TV7 on condition of anonymity that the assessment also provided possible operational scenarios that could distance further Tehran's so-called breakout point, after which the only option remaining to thwart the Islamic Republic's nuclear weapon aspiration would be a decisive, wide-scale kinetic operation. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu signaled to the Islamic Republic that Jerusalem is well aware of its nuclear program, while reiterating Israel's adamant resolve to thwart Tehran's aspiration to achieve nuclear weapons. In a filmed statement, the Israeli leader also urged the West to impose snapback sanctions against Iran, which will further limit the Islamic Republic's financial capacity to pursue its malign revolutionary policies.
אנחנו יודעים בדיוק מה קורה בתוכנית הגרעין האיראנית. איראן חושבת שהיא תשיג נשק גרעיני. אני שב ואומר, ישראל לא תאפשר לאיראן להשיג נשק גרעיני, ואני גם קורא לכל מדינות המערב להטיל את מנגנון הסנקציות האוטומטיות באו"ם, ה-snapback sanctions, עכשיו.
The comments by the Israeli Prime Minister were made amid Europe's apparent loss of patience with the Islamic Republic of Iran. The E3, which consists of France, Britain, and Germany, announced their collective decision to trigger the dispute mechanism under the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, which is the technical term of the 2015 nuclear agreement, citing Tehran's ongoing violations of its nuclear-related commitments as the true reason for the measure. In a joint statement, the 3 European powers blamed Iran for forcing their hand, yet stopped short from joining the United States in exerting additional economic pressure on the Ayatollah regime. While London, Paris, and Berlin asserted a united front vis-à-vis the Islamic Republic, EU Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell sought to downplay the move as a European effort to reintroduce full Iranian compliance to the 2015 nuclear deal.
The aim of the dispute resolution mechanism is not to reimpose sanctions. The aim of this mechanism is to resolve issues relating to the implementation of the agreement within the framework of the Joint Commission. I think it has to be clear that the objective is therefore to find solutions and return to full compliance within the framework of this agreement.
It is important to explain that the moment the E3 officially triggers the so-called dispute mechanism, 15 days of negotiations will commence to resolve differences, a deadline which can be extended by consensus. Elaborating on the European decision, German Foreign Minister Heiko Maas voiced confidence that an agreement remains within reach.
Wir sind zuversichtlich, dass die Möglichkeiten gegeben sind, eine Einigung in den Verhandlungen zu erzielen, die jetzt kommen werden. Es wird eine Frist von erst einmal zweimal 15 Tage anlaufen, die kann theoretisch aber auch verlängert werden. Wir können letztlich aber nicht tatenlos zusehen, dass der Iran in unterschiedlichen Phasen permanent ankündigt, sich nicht mehr an seine Verpflichtungen zu halten. Und deshalb wählen wir dieses Instrument, den Streitschlichtungsmechanismus, um dafür zu sorgen, dass der Iran erklärt, sich zukünftig wieder an seine Verpflichtungen aus dem Atomabkommen zu halten. Und wir fordern den Iran auf, sich konstruktiv an diesen Verhandlungen zu beteiligen. Das Ziel dieser Verhandlungen wird sein, das Atomabkommen zu erhalten. Denn wir sind der Auffassung, dass es Sinn macht, dieses Atomabkommen in die Zukunft zu retten, weil es verhindert, dass der Iran in den Besitz einer Atombombe kommt.
Meanwhile, in London, British Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab insisted that Iran was to blame for the latest developments.
First of all, it is Iran that is threatening the JCPOA with its systematic non-compliance. The Prime Minister fully supports the JCPOA and bringing Iran back into full compliance.
While Britain remains committed to the 2015 nuclear deal, Secretary Raab underscored London's inclination to work with the United States and European partners to build a broader initiative which would address not only Iran's nuclear ambitions, but its destabilizing activity in the region. Raab told the British Parliament that a new broader deal was not exclusively an American demand, since it was French President Emmanuel Macron who initially voiced the need for an agreement that would challenge the Islamic Republic's broader malign activities.
In fact, it's not just President Trump, but also President Macron, who have argued for a broader deal with Iran, which first of all addresses some of the defects in the JCPOA, which is not a perfect deal, but is, in our view, the best deal we've got on the table as of now. And secondly, would address the wider concerns that the US and many other states, including the United Kingdom, have about Iran's broader destabilizing activities in the region.
Meanwhile, in Tehran, Iranian President Hassan Rouhani warned British Prime Minister Boris Johnson that his proposal of a new American-led deal would be to his detriment.
این آقای نخست وزیر در لندن من نمیدونم چه جوری فکر میکنه. میگه که برجام بذاریم کنار، طرح ترامپی رو بریم اجرا بکنیم.
President Rouhani also threatened both Europe and the United States that unless their forces will leave the region, their soldiers will remain unsafe.
سرباز آمریکایی امروز در ناامنی است، فردا ممکنه سرباز اروپایی هم در ناامنی باشه. بیایید این امنیت درست کنیم. ما نمیخوایم ناامنی در دنیا باشه. ما میخوایم شماها برید از اینجا، البته نه با جنگ. میخوایم عاقلانه از این منطقه برید. به نفعتون هم است.
The comments by the Iranian leader came several hours after yet another rocket attack was reported in Iraq. At least 2 Katyusha rockets were fired toward the Al-Taji Air Force Base in Iraq, where US-led coalition forces are stationed. This is the third such attack within less than a week. Thank you for watching us. Keep praying for the peace of Jerusalem as well as the peace and salvation of Israel. I'm Jonathan Hassan. Have a Erev Tov, and we will see you again tomorrow at the same time.